Okay, so today we're starting with the Vietnam War. The beginning of the war, it says before World War II, it was a French territory, Indochina, right? The Geneva Accords, it establishes the 17th parallel, which is going to be right here, and that's the division between North Vietnam and South Vietnam. And just like the 32 parallel in Korea, that's divided North and South Korea, here you're going to have North Vietnam being a communist country, South Vietnam being a democratic country. So it's the same thing that we had seen in Korea. Okay, North Vietnam communist, South Vietnam democracy. Now the domino theory. Eisenhower believed that if one country falls to communism, others will fall too. So just like a roll of dominoes, you have them lined up, one topples over, so will the other one. So if Vietnam falls, Laos, Cambodia, Thailand, Burma, India, then Bangladesh will fall. Again, going back to the policy of containment, which is to stop the spread of communism. Here you're going to have Ho Chi Minh. Ho Chi Minh was the communist leader for the North. The Viet Minh wanted foreign independence, right? They wanted foreign independence. They wanted to be independent and basically independent to be communist. In South Vietnam, you had a president, just like in a democracy. You had Ngo Dinh Diem, which is him. He was strongly anti-communist, right? Just like any democratic person would be. The Viet Cong were communist opposition in the South. So the people that wanted to be communist in the South were known as the Viet Cong. Okay? The Viet Cong lived within the South, even though the South was a democracy. They were supplied by the Ho Chi Minh through the Ho Chi Minh Trail, which is what you can see here in the red. So of course, Ho Chi Minh is going to be the dictator for the North, and he is providing supplies to the Viet Cong through the Ho Chi Minh Trail, which is what you can see here in the red. Okay. Now Kennedy and Vietnam. Increased support in 1963, 16,000 troops were in South Vietnam. You had Buddhist resistance. Here you have a Buddhist monk who actually doused himself in gasoline and lit himself on fire in protest. Diem was assassinated. The president of South Vietnam was assassinated. Now President Johnson, LBJ, expands the conflict. Now North Vietnam launches a torpedo, quote unquote, a torpedo towards the USS Maddox. They miss and the United States fire back. And this is how it officially gets the United States involved, right? And here you're going to have the Gulf of Tonkin. LBJ asks Congress to declare war on North Vietnam because North Vietnam supposedly attacked the USS Maddox, which was kind of just chilling there in the Gulf of Tonkin. The Tonkin Gulf Resolutions gives LBJ military powers in Vietnam, so basically all, decisions were made through LBJ. And that's what the Tonkin Gulf Resolution does. Vietnam was known as Operation Rolling Thunder, and in June 1965, over 50,000 troops fought against the Viet Cong in South Vietnam. Right? Now, the United States involvement and escalation. The United States supported the policy of containment, right? They supported the policy of containment. Secretary of Defense was Robert McNamara, and the Secretary of State was Dean Rusk, and they were the advisors for LBJ. America was torn. In 1965, you have over 180,000 troops. General Westmoreland requested more troops, which is him. In 1967, you have 500,000 troops. Now, in Vietnam, we saw something that was very different than what we've seen before, and it was known as guerrilla or guerrilla warfare. It was based off of these hit-and-run tactics. You would be ambushed. You didn't know where you were going to be fired from. You would just kind of walk the jungle, and attacks would be done. You had jungle terrain, which the United States soldiers were not used to. Very harsh conditions, and it was very hot, very humid, and again, in the jungle you can get lost very easily. We weren't used to that. They also created a tunnel system where they actually had these a civilization underground. So not only is it a tunnel, not only is it a jungle on top, but they do have these holes, kind of like animals, where they would go and actually live underground, and we had no idea how or what to find, or how to find them, or what to do with them, right? You even have a submerged entrance here, false tunnels, booby traps, the kitchens. It was just very extensive. The United States was not ready for that. The strategy we would use would be the body count. Napalm. Napalm was a gasoline-based bomb that would set the jungle on fire. So we would use that, and you can see pieces of that here. Going back to the body count, what the United States would do is they would report, because Vietnam was the first televised war, so they would report on the body count. How many soldiers have we lost? How many soldiers have they lost? And their numbers were always going to be way higher than ours, so that way it made it look like we were winning. Of course, the effects of napalm, you're going to have Agent Orange, which is a leaf-killing toxic chemical. And again, since you had a lot of jungle, this chemical would actually weigh it down. So that's Agent Orange. And then you had these search and destroy missions, where you would go into these small villages and you would search for any Viet Cong and destroy everything in its path, like in your path. You would destroy completely the village. Now we are going to have decreased morale. It led soldiers to drugs, alcohol, and violence. It's kind of ironic. You see the soldier here, he's at war, yet he has the peace sign. We do have the draft. And the media has a lot of impact. This is going to be the first televised war. We don't depend on the government telling us how we're doing. We get to see it firsthand. You have the credibility gap, which is the distrust for the government. Can you believe what the government is telling you when you are seeing something else on TV? The nation becomes divided. Of course, you have the draft, which is a selective service lottery to go to war. You were just chosen at random, and we had so many men that were drafted that were against the war, and they were forced to go fight. This would be a draft card of when and how you had to report, where to report to. Minorities were mainly the ones chosen, African Americans, Mexicans, Asians. Martin Luther King speaks out against the draft system, and we saw that in one of the videos that we've seen before. And the Black Panthers were also against the draft as well. Women were able to join the ranks as nurses. Again, we're still not able to fight in the front lines, but we can volunteer as nurses. Now, protesting the war, you had the New Left, which they want to change. Corporations and large government institutions had taken over the country, and that's what they believed, that they had taken over the country. You have the free speech movement, which was done through colleges, students versus professors, teach-ins, kind of like sit-ins to protest the war. Good academic standing was needed for deferment. To keep you from being drafted, you had to be in good academic standing, a student, right, in these colleges. You were drafted at 18, but you couldn't vote. That became an issue, that you were old enough to go fight in a war, but you weren't old enough to vote. Because before, you had to be 21 to go fight. Sorry, you had to be 21 to go vote. So that's going to create a problem. You're going to have your doves, which are those people that were against the war, versus your hawks, which are people for the war. Doves versus hawks, right? Doves are white and peaceful. Hawks are dark and evil. All right, if you have any questions, you let me know.